even they're not given to be together and have together um, uh, 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 a circle together or a surroundment together, um, Judaism gives you an opportunity to have this togetherness, to be together even when it is difficult. Allow me to take it even one step further, and I'll stay with the example of synagogue. I should maybe say to my background, I would describe myself as a modern Orthodox Jew, which means that I keep Shabbat and I keep Kashrut and I try to keep the halacha as it is written down 2,000 years ago by our rabbis and God's word, of course. And and as this is on the one hand. On the other hand, I do try to live the modern world, and I do try to understand the criticism that democracy and the values of humanity brings up. And sometimes, yeah, there is a bit of a clash between the words that were spoken in the Talmud. If you compare them to the democracy and to the values that people raise up during these days, and it's a bit hard of a time. It's a bit difficult, but what I'm trying to say is that even in these circumstances, and I'll bring up a specific example that is not too much related now to this complication I mentioned before. But for example, a prayer. If you go to an Orthodox synagogue, the prayer will be the same prayer that was established from rabbis that lived years before me and years before the challenges they knew that will appear today. So the question would be, why should I say something that people many years ago assumed that will be the right thing to say? And it's a legit question if you try to look on Judaism with a critical view. Every person is individual, and every person has its own interest, and he should pray for his own interest, and not someone that lived thousands of years ago should tell me how I should pray today. And I really had, as an modern Orthodox Jew, I had a really hard time to pray in synagogue. But then, really, after dealing many years with this question, I had an insight. I had, like an idea why it would be like this. And this is again for the same reason, that people will gather and speak the same language in the synagogue, because if they don't speak the same the same language in a place, they will not be able to work together and to be together. I don't know how many of you read Yuval Harari, A Brief History of Humankind, and he says the very same thing. The main difference between animals and human is that humans are able to speak with each other, to have the same language with each other, and therefore create more things than animals would ever be able to do. And this is actually what Judaism also gives you. When I grew up in Vienna, I used to go to synagogue in Vienna and have all the prayers. And when I moved later to Berlin, or now here in Israel, or when I went backpacking in India and Nepal, I always in the synagogue met people that I know that we speak the same language, that we have the same style to worship God. And this gatherness is the main issue in Judaism. And here it depends again on in which path of Judaism you are. But clearly there are places where it's not like this. For example, there was a big question now if the Seder should be made by Zoom, if people are lonely by themselves, right? So here you have, on the other hand, big discussions between the different streams in Judaism itself. While Orthodox Judaism says, listen, we live 2,000 years without Zoom, and this Seder will also survive without Zoom. And there are other people that say differently. But the main idea of coming together, of Bet Knesset, of gathering together, of having one language altogether, of people that are here all around Europe and speaking having the same idea that Shabbat will enter very soon. This is something that brought us together. nevertheless, if you believe in a God or if you don't believe in a God. I would be happy to hear any questions or concerns that you have. I give you the floor.
I mean, but I do have a question because I also face some of these issues from time to time, and this goes more back to what you said initially. But how do you reconcile when there's obvious disagreements between the values of Orthodox Judaism, at least, and of modernist humanist values? Because I struggle with that from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Clearly, me too. So it very depends. For example, there is this famous blessing during the morning that says "Shelo asani isha," which basically means that I'm happy that I wasn't born as a woman. And it's difficult. It's difficult 2020 to say as a rational and critic thinking person such a sentence. It's a real problem. And if you ask the Orthodox rabbis or Orthodox people how they think about it, they will give you a reason that is like, because the woman has a bigger role in this world, and they are. I would just ask you. I don't know who it is, but someone is without earplugs, and therefore I hear myself twice. So if you could, yeah, thank you very much. Uh, uh, there is a problem. There is really a problem, and they will argue, look, the woman has a bigger role in this life, and this is why we are happy that we don't receive the same responsibility as the woman. Okay, you can take it as an argument. For me, at least, me, Itamar, personally, and this is what I can share with you, my personal opinion, this is not enough. And this is why I feel for myself that I don't say this bracha. This is on a very individual level, because if I say shacharit, no one knows whether I said it or not, and I feel more comfortable not saying it. Again, as a modern Orthodox Jew, but there are other things that are related to a bigger screen, I would say. For example, also in Orthodox Judaism, it is not allowed that the woman will be a witness on the wedding. And this is something you don't do individually by yourself. This is something that you do actually in a big crowd. And I, with all the criticism that I have, and I have lots and lots and lots of criticism regarding this this view, this specific view, I do see myself part of the modern Orthodox Judaism in which I very believe. Um, and it's kind of difficult to go these both paths. I agree, but for the main idea of modern Orthodox Judaism, which I very support, and this is to leave Judaism as original as we got it, because if we would go after every trend, for example, again the Zoom meeting on Seder Abend, on the evening of Seder, Judaism would get lost. And the danger of the Judaism getting lost as a culture, as a God view, never mind as what, but in the time where everything gets updated, it's very nice that you have Judaism that stays as it is, and there are some things that I really can't relate to, and where I hope that these things will be changed. But in general, the modern Orthodox Judaism is something that I relate to, and this is why I accept it with the hope that it will be changed very soon. I hope I could give you a little insight. I know I talked now for a while, but it's a difficult issue. It's a really difficult issue. I won't say it's a difficult issue. Yeah. But and this is maybe another thing that should be mentioned here. We're talking here now about Judaism as something that is very related to religion, and this is maybe the first question that I started and will take up from here again. Judaism doesn't mean only that they are that it's a religion. I know many Jews that feel themselves Jewish. They're very identified with Judaism without without practicing the traditions of Judaism. It's just because maybe people from outside reminded them or asked that we are Jewish, or it's in their they heard from their parents that they were Jewish, therefore they're Jewish. So Judaism, or let me say differently, you can be a Jew without entering a synagogue your whole life. Okay, you could eat every day the pork with the cream cheese on it and do it fully convinced and not visiting the synagogue even once in your life, and you will still be a Jew. You will still be part of the people. And this is why Judaism is much more than only, I would not say only, it's much more than a view of God's will. It's something that gathers us together. It's something that, as an example, I will it's the Jewish Austrian Union, and there is an elder like there are older people in Austria that are not able in this time to go and buy the groceries. So of course there are organizations in Austria that enable or better sending people to make the groceries, but also the Austrian Jewish Union decided to pick up medicine for them and to go and buy the groceries. Now, specifically, this organization came up for the Jewish or even non-Jewish older people. Correct me if I'm wrong, because there is this idea of being connected to a group and to look on each other and to have these traditions even when it is more difficult to keep them. So and this should be maybe the end note. People are very, very happy about the fact that they are that they're Jewish. Nevertheless, if they keep the religious aspect of it or not, because Judaism is much more than only a religion, but is a big part of a traditional aspect and gives you impact and gives you a community that will support you in during hard times, as for example this very moment where we are keeping all contact and we are trying to go after our traditions, even when it is hard. Yeah, great. So what I would suggest, I mean, until Shabbat starts in your countries, I guess there is some time, but Shabbat will start here in 1 hour. And another nice tradition of Shabbat is that we light the candles. Usually you light 2 candles, one for Shamo, one for the Chol, for keeping and remembering. This is how you usually do it. I will light now a candle. I will say that I will not make the blessing of the candles right now. If someone wants to do the candle lighting, please feel free to do so with the blessing, with the bracha. But as I have some things to do till Shabbat comes inside, I will only light the candle in a simple way. But before that, if someone is willing to share with us his view or his identification of Judaism, or maybe discuss it with us, or share something that you say, listen, Itamar, with all respect, something that you said I don't agree and I want to explain why, I would be more than happy.
So to me, like there is always like this feeling of seeing Judaism as something static, but that brings a community. As you said, like every time wherever you will go to pray in a synagogue, you will feel connected, you will feel part of a community because you can do it in some way, you have the same language. But it is also a sign that Judaism has been quite static in the last 200 years. So where do we make this balance as well? Like this balance of creating community, creating this common language, but we are stopping in some way to see Judaism as something that can vary with the time, but have become quite static and haven't like evolved with society as it used to do before.
I will try to answer the first half, and then the second half I would just ask you further what you mean exactly with involved with the society, but one after the other. There is a famous story in the Talmud where Moses makes kind of a time travel. It's very sci-fi, but this is how it is. And he sees another rabbi that lived thousands of years after him. His name is Rabbi Akiva, who is also a very, very big role model in Judaism. He was saying that the whole essence of the Torah is that you ve'afta l'recha kamocha, you have to love the other one like you love yourself. And Moses saw how Rabbi Akiva is practicing the halachot, the laws of Judaism with his students. And Moses sees this and asks God, like, what they are doing. This is nothing is related to that on how I practiced my Judaism, and what they're doing is weird. I haven't seen it like never. Yeah. And again, we talk here about a very, very big rabbi in this time, right? We don't talk about someone. And God answers Moses, this Judaism that you see here currently is the very same Judaism as you have been practicing your whole life. And I do think that there is a development in Judaism itself. I can give you maybe a more simple example. 150 years ago, in Orthodox synagogues, it was not accepted anyone to talk. Like even the rabbi, if he would go up before a Yom Kippur prayer and say his words of Torah, 150 years ago in Poland, for example, people would say he's crazy. Like what's going on? The Beit Knesset is a place where we all come together in order to worship God, not to give someone a platform to say a Dvar Torah. If you want to say some words of Torah, set your time and do it, but never do it in the prayer itself. And now it is so common that during the prayer, the rabbi goes and says some people to say some words to the crowd. So there are small differences. There are small development within Judaism. I totally agree with you that this development, they're not interested in getting to the beyond the walls, I would say, or beyond maybe the walls that Judaism sets. But for the main reason, because we want to keep up our traditions as they are. What I would like just to understand is what you mean with the second half, with to engage in the society.
I was telling, like, it's maybe more a comparison between different denominations of Judaism that we see, for example, that other currents of Judaism have been like not only changing like small things, but have been able like to swift like prayers and ways of like praying in general to become more parallel to the times coming. When it comes to, like, for example, the conservative movement or the reform movement, who also have include a gender perspective.
Again, first of all, you said it, like there are many different streams in Judaism itself that they are convinced that there should be a development, and not development but the change, and therefore they're doing it. And the Orthodox Judaism sees its value, its unique selling point, in the fact that you are part of a flash mob that takes that started 2,000 years ago and will continue thousands of years, and the same tefillin that I wear, my father and my grandfather and all the grandfathers before him also were wearing, and also my children and my grandchildren, blah, blah. So something very, very continuous. There is no interest in changing it, because in their opinion, the Orthodox Judaism, sees the value in it, that in the very same way that I did it, my father did it, and my grandfather did it, and also will be continued. It's a path. It's not the absolute truth. It's one path that you can choose from many paths. I don't have to tell you, Judaism is very homogene. Sorry, very heterogene, very diverse. There are many opinions. There is this very famous sentence like 2 Jews and 3 opinions, and I think it's totally correct. I can say for Orthodox Judaism that the main idea, the main value is to have something very constant in a dynamic world where not even Corona will force us to change our habits. It's hard on the individual level, but for the big crowd, and this is what we mentioned before, for the big crowd, it's the best thing that can happen. Because if everyone takes here a bit, here a bit, here a bit, we will not be able to gather
anymore. I also wanted to share a few thoughts because, like, I very much, although I am not completely unreligious, I very much define my Judaism as not very related to religion, I have to say. Even though I keep some stuff, I put in on Tefillin every day, and I do all kinds of stuff that are related to Jewish religions. But if someone asks me how I define my Judaism, I really don't define my Judaism as a religion, first and foremost. I define it for myself as a people, as a culture, as a common history, and what have you. But of course, a lot of that is rooted in Jewish religion and Jewish tradition. There's no question about that. And I also think that a lot of the values, or at least the values I try to espouse when I do political work, when I am engaging, when I am volunteering, whatever I'm doing, come from the Judaism. And are a super strong part of my identity, and so then is Jewish tradition, Jewish religion automatically. But that also sometimes makes it hard for me when there is an obvious clash, because even though I think that it is right, it is sometimes hard when there is a very obvious clash between values you espouse as a political being, as a humanist, and the values that Orthodox Judaism sometimes espouses. And I try to reconcile those because Judaism and Jewish religion is quite important to me, but I haven't found a clear answer yet, and I'm very interested on that journey, and also on the changing phases of Jewish religion and Jewish tradition, how it's transmitted. Of open orthodoxy after actually listening to the podcast with you last week, which I think is very interesting.
Thank you very much. First of all, there should be one thing that is very clear. Bin ich mach's nochmal aus? Ich habe mich wieder so mit. Danke. Nein, alles gut. If you don't belong to the religious part of Judaism because you're convinced that something is right. If everybody knew that Judaism nevertheless which path is right, there would not be any issue in practicing. The whole idea of the religious part of Judaism is that you're not sure. And between us, it's also pretty good, because imagine everybody would know, life would be too easy and we would freak our minds. I think that the main, and saying it's someone, maybe I should say it also, being a modern Orthodox Jew, in my opinion, is also not contrary if you're agnostic. I also can't say all the time if there is a God or even a Jewish God. I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. But the idea of having doubt makes religion, in my opinion, again, this is something that I share for myself, makes it even stronger and makes it even more interesting, and also gives you the room to criticize if something is not agreeable with your values.
No, absolutely, and I also think you're absolutely right. But it's quite a courageous step to believe while having doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
look, I think, and I do, I think, but I'm just saying that this is a courageous concept in a way.
It's a crazy concept, and it's paradox, and I'll give you the best example where you will relate. Imagine Austria Wien is coming to the EuroLeague. Okay, it's very, very far away. I know it's very, very far away. But just imagine
120 years.
but just imagine Austria being coming to the EuroLeague, and there is this first game against, say, Victoria Pilsen, and you're looking forward to it. Finally, they made it, and they will play against Victoria Pilsen, and we're all looking forward to what's going to happen. How will be your excitement for this game if you already know the results, or if you don't know the results? The whole point of religion, of the Judaism, of the religious side of Judaism, is this whole doubting, and is this whole not able to be sure, because if we had this sureness, it would not be religion anymore, and in my opinion, it would be also less fun. It would be easier, but it would be less fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a very good explanation.
Yeah, not that it will happen again against Victor, but
Inshallah, it will happen very soon.
inshallah it will happen, huh? Okay. Is there someone else who wants to share with us his thoughts and ideas? Okay, great. So in that case, I want to invite you to take, if you have a candle, to take the candle. I will make it now like this. Now you see, very good. And light it up. There is this, the whole issue of fire in Judaism is a very, very strong one. Wait, maybe like, yeah, you know. The whole issue of fire is a very, very strong one, because fire is something that if I light up a candle and I come with another candle to light up another fire, the first fire will not be less after giving the fire, the resource, to the other candle. It's not like if I share a cola bottle and I give you a glass of cola, I will have a glass less. Fire, never mind how every holiday in Judaism, we start also with lighting a fire so we can share all the knowledge and all the holiness for this specific day. And another thing, in Judaism, the day starts usually in the evening, and we want to bring up fire into the darkness. We want, with our doing, with our traditions and with our values, to bring up to light in a situation where everything is dark. So what I want to wish for ourselves is that with the power of Shabbat, we will be able to bring light into the dark, even when it means that the dark is now to sit at home, to wait in quarantine, not to know what will happen. That at least with our doing and with our daily being, we will be able to bring good and light and share resources of us without the feeling that we got less from it. From that aspect, I want to send you a Shabbat Shalom, a peaceful Shabbat from Israel. I hope we'll be all fine. It was very, very nice. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for the participation. And thank you, EUGS, for the opportunity, and be safe and stay home.
Shabbat Shalom as well, everyone. Thanks a lot, Itamar, for taking the time and leading this wonderful discussion before Shabbat. And I hope to see you all tomorrow as well in the Abdallah. And stay home, safe. And again, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Bye.
Yes.